Hello and welcome. Welcome to this video. The main reason I've made this video is because one of my subscribers put out a very good question, which was, he said his age and then he said, should I collect Warhammer? Now, if you don't already know, there's a game, a miniature game called Warhammer. There's also one called Warhammer 40K or 40,000, and they're made by Games Workshop. Games Workshop are a company, a very large company, worldwide company, based in the UK, and they've been around since 1975, probably a bit earlier. Now, so they've been around a long time. And normally if a company has been around a long time, they've been doing things right. That's generally how it goes, isn't it? Now, it's a hobby. It's a miniature hobby where you have armies, you collect armies, you build them a little bit like Airfix models. So you buy them in, they're mainly plastic. You buy them in these boxes and you have to cut them off these plastic sprues, and you have to glue them together with plastic glue or super glue, depending, and then you have to spray them. You don't have to, but you can spray them. Then you paint them, and then you can play them. You can game with them. There's a whole slew of rules, and when I say fluff, I mean kind of backstory to the models, to really flesh out why you would be battling against other armies and things. So this video is not really about the history Games Workshop or anything like that. I might do one about them. It depends how successful this is, and it depends if you guys want it or not. So this is to address the question, should I collect Warhammer? Just ignore the fact that there's the Russian Union there. It's completely by accident. I just thought I'd cover up all the questions I have, the points I'm about to make with something quite solid like the Russian Union. Anyway, so what we've got here is, whenever you're thinking about a new hobby, whether it be knives, Warhammer, collecting watches, any kind of hobby, I always find it very useful. Well, when you're going to be investing your time and your money into a hobby, I always find that it's worth doing if you write a positive and a negative list, or a pros and cons list, even a tick list. And the way I think that's important, because you're only here for a short time and you only earn so much money, so your time is quite valuable. When you're a child or a kid, you may think that you've got all the time in the world, but before long you may be an adult with children yourself. Anyway, that being said, I always find it useful to make a pros and cons list. And I've done that for this question. So, should I collect Warhammer? Now, when I mean Warhammer, it's a vague thing. It's the models, it could be Warhammer 40K, it could be just the normal Warhammer Fantasy, they call it, where it's mainly magic and swords and shields and things like that. Warhammer 40K is kind of set in the 41st millennium, set far in the future, where there's space travel and all the rest of it. And of course, in the story to the 41st millennium, there's technology is we've gone backwards in time with technology, and we've gone forwards in time with technology. By that I mean we used to be very technologically savvy, and then we lost all that technology, and now we're at the stage of trying to get some of that back. But it's not about it's not just about the humans and the human race. It's about lots of other armies and things. So what I have for you in front of you right now, you're probably wondering after nearly 5 minutes, is a Space Marine army. They're basically genetically modified superhuman soldiers. Imagine an Olympic basketball player, but much more muscly and heavier, and he's had lots of different organs implanted in him. He's got a second heart, a bit like Doctor Who, I suppose. He's got a third lung. Honestly, read up on some of the fluff if that interests you, but These were the first kind of original Space Marines, way before Halo and Master Chief and all those kind of things. These were the original. When you see chainswords, you see some guys with chainswords as weapons. This is way before Gears of War. You know, this really is a basis of inspiration for a lot of science fiction and video games nowadays. Anyway, so back to my points. Should I collect Warhammer? The pros. Now I've got here that modelling and painting is relaxing, so no OMG, hacksaw, lag switching, etc. Basically, it is a relaxing hobby. You're not going to be shouting down the house, you're not going to be cursing because you tried to paint something and then the model's moved and you've missed and you've painted your cat, something like that. Whereas with video games, everybody knows people can hack, people do have better internet, people can cheat because you're against a lot of people around the world, and you know it's basically, that's what I'm trying to say, is that it's the hobby is relaxing. You can take your time to glue some models, to paint them, and I find that video games can be quite stressful, especially if you're playing competitively. Yeah, it's nice after work or it's nice after school to wind down with a video game, but if you're playing competitive multiplayer, or if you're just playing multiplayer in general, sometimes if you die and you don't think it's fair, or sometimes if you try and kill someone and they don't die and you don't think that's fair, that can be quite stressful. Obviously there's no scientific proof to what I've just said, but it's just experience, put it that way. The second thing I've put here is you can be proud of your creations. Alright, you start with just little parts. You start with an arm, you start with a gun, a sword, a shoulder pad, and then you build something out of the many parts of the model. You create something. When you have, you know, a few sprues of pieces of the plastic for a tank, and then within a few hours you've built a tank out of these flat sprues, it's something to be proud of. You're actually creating something. Alright? Third pro, it is an investment. Alright? It is expensive, and that's one of my negatives that I'll talk about, my cons, but it's an investment. Some of these models here with the green bases I've had for over a decade, and now they're actually worth more. When I bought a box set of 10 miniatures, it cost me about £10 or £12. Now you're talking £25. So it's an investment. They do go up in value, and you can always sell them. You can always sell them if you don't like the hobby. The fourth pro is you can play games with them. So not only can you glue them and paint them as you like, you can actually use all the rules to play games with them. So, and you can do that anytime, as long as you've got the rules. You can do that. It doesn't require any patches or any updates. Yes, Games Workshop sometimes make a couple of spelling mistakes and a couple of rules that are slightly vague, but the whole point of it is about having fun. Alright? None of this, you load up your video game and you've already got a patch. Nothing like that. And the rules for these things, for Warhammer really, they get changed roughly about every 5 years. So, and the thing is, if you have the current rules, there's nothing stopping you from using those rules in 20 years' time. Nothing stopping you. Obviously not against the people with the updated rules, but you can still use your rules with somebody. Like I could use the 4th edition or the 5th edition rules with my friend, and that would be absolutely fine. Because it's house rules, isn't it? Another pro, it allows you to be creative. You can build and paint your army in your way. I chose, when I was a kid, to paint mine with yellow trimmed shoulder pads. I chose not to put the tactical insignia, or to put, mine are kind of a successor chapter to Blood Angels, so I chose not to put a little Blood Angels mark there, just in case I wanted to use them as normal Space Marines. And that's the creativity aside. I could have painted them all pink. I could have painted them all white and had them look very similar to Star Wars. You can paint them whatever colour you like. And that goes for all the armies really in the game, in the universe. And by build your own way, you can put whatever gun you want on the person, and whatever arms, heads, poses. The possibilities are literally endless. It improves your hand-to-eye coordination, the building and painting. It does improve your hand-to-eye coordination, because you're sat there, you have to concentrate deeply on putting the brush where you want it to go. And the final point I'll make is enjoy the fluff. There are great stories to be found in the hobby. There's a lot of backstory, rich backstory on all of the armies, and enjoy it. There are many authors that are employed by Games Workshop through Black Library that have written many books and works in other fields, in other sci-fi genres, and a lot of them are very, very good reads. I've read some very, very good stories to do with this universe, and that's only testament to the core information, the core background really of all the armies. So that's the pros.